AI systems are getting better because they're trained on lots of data. In fact, models like GPT have been trained on the entire internet already. But as data becomes limited, people are looking for new ways to make artificial intelligence even better. And one idea is quantum computing. It's a fresh new kind of computer science that might take artificial intelligence to the next level. Now, quantum computing is really special because it can look at tiny particles like atoms in a whole new light. No pun intended. This means if AI and quantum computers get together, it can both learn from and explore more possibilities than it ever could have before, solving big problems quickly and opening up all sorts of new opportunities. So here's 5 ways that artificial intelligence can help us usher in a new future with quantum computers. Error correction. Quantum computers are highly susceptible to errors due to their reliance on the fuzzy nature of qubits, which is constantly affected from static or noise, technically called decoherence. Hardware optimization. Machine learning can help identify optimal configurations and materials for building quantum computers. Simulation and modeling. AI can be used to simulate and model quantum systems, helping researchers better understand their behavior and coming up with new quantum computing techniques. AI can help figure out the optimal order to do tasks in, and other ways to look at any resource that a quantum computer is using and use it in the most optimal way. Quantum machine learning. Now, this would be a whole new breed of artificial intelligent algorithms, but it would be trained to use quantum data, which then maybe it could be used to solve the complicated quantum problems. A quantum arms race. The battle between good and evil. So quantum computing's getting better and better. And some experts are saying by 2030, the world might have a super powerful quantum computer. And combining that computer with the latest in artificial intelligence in 2030, we will be solving problems that are way too complicated for the world's most powerful supercomputers today. Stuff like predicting the weather or fixing major logistical problems, possibly even curing cancer. But the flip side to that is if bad people use it, they could definitely use it for bad reasons, like stealing money and breaking passwords to start with. And that's why big companies like Google and IBM are investing a lot of money in this technology. So hopefully they can beat the bad guys to it, understand how it works, and use those same quantum computations to build security measures to protect us. Because AI is information, soon we'll be able to send it through a quantum wormhole. So some physicists have come up with a new way that might let us create a real physical wormhole, which is literally a bridge that can go across space and time. Now, of course, wormholes are usually talked about in terms of science fiction, but this new idea paves the way for a physical interpretation, something called counterportation, which would be a way to send a particle from one location to another without it traveling through time and space. And these same scientists think that in the future we could have a quantum computer powered by artificial intelligence that could make these wormholes for us, which could in theory compute data without having to exchange particles or move them in any way. Now, this science is definitely in its early days, but it's crazy to imagine what that kind of thing could lead to. Photon breakthrough. Unlocking the power of super fast computers. Scientists have made a big discovery in the world of light and atoms. For the first time, they were able to see and control individual photons, little particles of light. And this is a big step forward for something like developing a super fast computer, looking at really tiny stuff in biology, and developing the kind of medical imaging that can look inside of our body without hurting it or harming it in any way. So more than a century ago, scientists figured out that light's not really a particle or a wave, it's dualistic, it has both properties, which of course makes no intuitive sense, but is absolutely the truth. And it was that breakthrough that even led to computers and cell phone technology. Because the advantage to using light photons for communication is that it doesn't interact with itself, meaning we can send lots of information without distortion. But what about the times where it might be useful for the light to interact with itself? That's where it gets tricky. And that's what makes this breakthrough so important, because now scientists have control over when it interacts with itself, which will lead to better measurement devices and new technology. Quantum breakthrough. Decoherence defeated with QEC. So let's break down this new paper that was published in Nature. Basically, a bunch of people want to use the power of quantum mechanics to build super fast computers. But there's this problem, and that problem is called decoherence. It's constantly messing things up. So decoherence is the process that when you start with a quantum system, it goes through as it loses all of its quantum properties. And it's due to the pesky environment that we all exist in, and it exists in, which is like a really hard thing to remove from the system since it's literally reality, the world that we live in. And it's pretty much everywhere. But to fix this, they're using something called quantum error correction, QEC. Imagine it like a teamwork between the quantum stuff and the regular classical stuff trying to work together to stay ahead of any of the decoherence. And scientists got it to actually correct errors, so QEC does work. They made a special qubit, a qubit's like a tiny quantum particle, which lasted longer than any qubit ever has before the environment got to it and it decohered. Quantum sensing in outer space. A new era in climate research. So a group of engineers have come together from a bunch of universities to come up with some really innovative new tools to measure climate stuff. And they're focused on something called quantum sensing, which uses some special fundamental physics that you only see in the quantum world to get very accurate measurements. And they want to use this technology by putting it into space, then looking down at the planet to notice big macro trends. And this group just got funded with a whole bunch of money from NASA. So eventually they plan to build reports that explain things like how changes in gravity will ultimately affect our climate. Now the tricky part is they still need to build the technology and then get it into space safely. But this is definitely a really smart group of people, and I have my fingers crossed that they can achieve their goals. Quantum entanglement, uncovering the invisible bonds between particles. So when we measure something like how heavy it is or where it's located, we never really think about the measuring device affecting the thing that we're measuring. But in the quantum world, measuring something does change it. And one of the weirdest results from that is something called entanglement. This is when two or more things, like two particles of light, actually are intertwined in a way that goes beyond space and time. They end up having certain properties that are truly connected, like in the deepest way you could imagine, no matter what else you're measuring. And scientists have just found something new about this weird particle unity called entanglement. Because for the first time ever, they saw it happen between two different kind of particles with opposite electrical charges. And it was really clever the way they got this to work. By using two heavy particles and having them pass by each other, they focused on the area where they passed each other and found little particles came out of it. By doing this, they could take the difference and measure how big the big particles were, and even locate where those smaller pieces were inside of the bigger particles. And this is a big discovery because it shows that even different kinds of particles can be connected in strange ways in the quantum world. NASA's tiny cold quantum detector. Meet the mighty PICO. So NASA and Caltech have come up with this super cool quantum detector called PICO. It can measure crazy tiny pieces of light called photons. And in the future, this could be used to share huge quantities of data between two quantum computers through a new quantum network. So right now, quantum computers use something called a qubit to store quantum information, which is very different from the way your cell phone stores data. Now these qubits, although they're powerful, they have a couple problems. The first is they're very sensitive to the environment, and the second is that they can't be copied. Now the thinking is with this new kind of network, we can send information between space and Earth. Now the detector's super tiny and it needs to be like really cold to work. But it's based on some technology that NASA has already proved will be very important if we ever want to have deep space communication. And it might even be the first step towards being able to send a quantum bit of data anywhere in the universe. And how cool would that be?